Good morning and welcome back to TVP World. My name is Alex Smolinsky and these are the latest updates in the world news. And we begin this hour with news from Ukraine, where Russian forces launched an extensive drone attack on Kyiv Friday night. That attack injured 2 people and ignited multiple fires across several districts. According to Ukraine's State Emergency Service, 3 warehouses caught fire across the capital. In Kyiv's Darnitsky district, a fire erupted at a home after debris from a drone landed on that property. Similar attacks targeted Odessa and the Zaporizhia region, where Governor Ivan Fyodorov reported 447 attacks in the past 24 hours. Russia also used Shahed drones to attack Kharkiv, injuring 1 person there. Ukrainian and Russian foreign ministers are both attending the Antalya Diplomacy Forum in Turkey today. While there is no official meeting scheduled between the two, it is a rare occasion for foreign officials from both these countries to be at the same event. Kazimierz Łysiak, who is on site, has more.
There are still many questions concerning the UK and France-led Coalition of the Willing, an initiative of putting European troops in Ukraine in the future to safeguard a potential peace agreement. Some countries are less willing than others, with Poland, for example, saying a hard no to sending its own troops to Ukraine. Other countries cite concerns over the lack of the United States in the agreement. And I asked the UK State Minister for Europe, North America and Overseas Territories here at the Antalya Diplomacy Forum about the possibility of persuading the US in the future to join the coalition.
Well, we're very clear that the United States must be part of the security for Ukraine in the future, and that's absolutely crucial that we're working with them and all European partners. And we're also clear that all European partners and indeed all members of the Coalition of the Willing are going to have different roles to play. We've been very clear that we'll put boots on the ground.
The lack of US commitment is also making other NATO allies hesitant to commit their own troops. I've asked here the Finnish Foreign Deputy Minister about the possibility of her country doing so, and here is what she had to say.
We will see what our role will be. So we have been in this coalition and we are proactively taking part and seeing what we can then also provide. But of course, we are a frontline nation. We have our border to guard, and it is not only our national border, it's also the border of NATO towards Russia.
There are still major question marks over the Coalition of the Willing, but all of that doesn't really matter as long as Russia refuses to accept the terms of an immediate ceasefire. And so far, we have seen no indication of that. From the Antalya Diplomacy Forum, Kazimierz Łysiak, TVP World.
U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff reportedly said that the fastest route to a ceasefire would be through ceding Ukraine's 4 eastern regions that Russia attempted to annex illegally in 2022, according to Reuters. The remarks are believed to have been made at a meeting held with Donald Trump last week, shortly after a Putin-appointed negotiator held talks with Witkoff in Washington. However, Reuters reports the official was opposed by General Keith Kellogg, Trump's envoy in Ukraine, who told the U.S. president that Ukraine would not accept surrendering full control of its territories to Russia, though some form of negotiations might still be possible. These revelations come shortly after Witkoff traveled to St. Petersburg, where he held a 4-hour meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Though the talks did not bring any breakthrough, Trump increased pressure on the Kremlin, urging Moscow to, quote, get moving on a ceasefire in Ukraine. Ukrainian civilians in Kharkiv are taking part in military trainings as fears of a renewed Russian offensive grow. The training is open to all civilians, even those without prior military experience, with the goal of preparing them for potential future Russian attacks.
It was very scary to hold a weapon in my hands. I just wanted to hit at least a leaf. But now, after hitting the target twice, it's not so scary anymore. I did it. These days, any skill can come in handy.
The number of people from frontline communities who want to join us has increased, and we're happy to train them. We inform our people that we're ready for any actions our enemy might take. When the enemy comes here, they definitely won't be welcomed with flowers and bread. They'll be met with weapons.
First time around, it's so exciting, such an incredible adrenaline rush. You know, I find it interesting and I want to learn as many new things as possible. This way, we understand our guys, the soldiers, better and feel closer to them.
There's a window for the EU to negotiate the tariffs with the US, said Bernard Otterstein, president of the Polish-Canadian Chamber of Commerce, in an interview with TVP World. When asked about forging closer relations with China, Otterstein cautioned the bloc against falling into China's embrace.
Of course, that's a temptation, but I think that while both sides may have some, realize some gains from that situation, the strategic economic relationship will continue to be with North America. The economic relationship with China will be part of it, but there are security and competition and human rights and various issues that could, that will continue to strain the EU-China relationship, no matter how big the temptation may be to circumvent other areas and go direct in terms of the trade relationship between them.
So what awaits us in the very near future? I'm talking about us, regular consumers.
In the near term, we may see more Chinese products being diverted to Europe. So that would mean a lowering of prices for Chinese-produced products.
Which is good.
That could be good. That could be good. And it's also important to remember that China is a source of many critical raw materials or processed materials or precursors, such as, copper, lithium, graphite, and many other things, pharmaceutical APIs and things like that. So there are many things that we need China for anyway, and there's really no going around that. However, in the short term, there could, as I said, be more goods available in the world from China that are not going to the U.S. because of the high tariffs. So Europe could gain a little bit in the short term, but again, that is a threat for European manufacturers if they compete on the same, with the same product.
Russians may soon not be able to purchase property in Finland. On Friday, the Finnish parliament voted unanimously to support a ban on Russian nationals and entities buying real estate and exerting influence in the country. The exact language of the newly passed law bars individuals and companies from countries that, quote, wage a war of aggression and pose a potential threat to Finland's national security, end quote, from engaging in real estate transactions. It also includes measures to prevent circumventions through so-called dummy purchases, where someone buys property on behalf of another to conceal the buyer's real identity. The ban would not apply to other foreign nationals or Russians who hold a permanent residency in Finland. Finnish Defense Minister Antti Hakanen released a statement in which he said the move sends a clear message that Finland will not allow foreign powers to undermine them, revealing that the government will now draft a list of countries subject to the restrictions. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, U.S. President Donald Trump told reporters aboard Air Force One on Friday, just hours before U.S. officials were set to meet with Iranian representatives. Trump also revealed that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, who will be part of the talks with Iran, was in a meeting with Vladimir Putin during the time of the interview.
Only that. I want them not to have a nuclear weapon. I want Iran to be a wonderful, great, happy country. But they can't have a nuclear weapon. And we're negotiating with them. On Saturday, we have a big meeting with them.
What do you hope to come?
And right now, we have a meeting with President Putin as we speak. There's a meeting going on right now. But with Iran, I want them to flourish, but they can't have a nuclear weapon.
And now we're moving on to news from Poland, where 8 Polish presidential candidates have taken part in a televised debate. The event was held in the town of Końskie, a place often seen as a bellwether where election results typically reflect national results. The debate, originally planned as a head-to-head between just 2 candidates, saw a broader turnout after they were joined by other candidates in an unexpected turn of events. Rafał Trzaskowski of the Civic Platform, the largest party in the ruling coalition, was expected to face off against Karol Nawrocki, a candidate supported by the largest opposition group, the Law and Justice Party. However, in an unexpected twist, several other candidates joined the debate. Additional invitations were extended only 2 hours before the event, leaving some contenders unable to make it on time. Notably absent were Sławomir Mencen, a far-right MP polling in third place, and Adrian Zandberg, a left-wing MP currently polling in fifth. The problem that we're having in the global system comes from China, not the U.S., says Polish Deputy Finance Minister Paweł Karbownik. The ongoing trade war between Beijing and Washington is sending ripples across Europe, with car manufacturers concerned about the possible flooding of markets with cheap Chinese vehicles.
When it comes to the global trade system, China is the problem, not the US, said Polish Deputy Finance Minister Paweł Karbownik in an exclusive interview with TVP World.
We cannot align with China against the US. It would be absurd because, the problem that we are having in the global system is coming from China, not from the US. We are one of the biggest trading blocs. So obviously for us, the risk is that if America is closed for business, for Chinese imports, then these imports may flood European markets, which will be a problem for our producers.
This comes amid Donald Trump's efforts to restore balance to global trade with his ever-changing tariff policies, currently targeting China. Many countries found themselves forced to align with either Washington or Beijing, especially after the White House posted this message.
Do not retaliate and you will be rewarded.
With the EU aiming to secure a strong position in the multipolar global trade, some Polish manufacturers see the US-China conflict as a chance.
Today, our main competitor on the American market is China. If tariffs on China are higher than tariffs on European producers, we can end up winning this entire squabble.
Representatives of the automotive industry are less optimistic. On Thursday, they met with Polish Prime Minister Tusk to discuss the situation.
Right now, we are more and more less competitive to Chinese car makers. They are entering European market. It is really attractive market for them. So right now, when they market in US are closed for them, the European market will be even more attractive.
But it's not just about trade. Deputy Minister Karbownik, as well as other experts, warned that siding with Beijing means inadvertently supporting Moscow.
Also, on the geopolitical side, we have to remember that the Chinese, companies are supplying the Russian military complex. 80% of the imports to Russia of dual-use goods is coming from China.
Well, I think that from the very beginning, we observe a situation where the Chinese and the Russians are going hand in hand.
So, even with a highly unpredictable Donald Trump at the helm, the United States remained the EU's most reliable trading partner.
American foreign policy is predictable overall. Mr. Donald Trump doesn't seem to be very predictable, but he doesn't have as many moves as he probably would believe.
Meanwhile, sources in Brussels have confirmed to TVP World that an EU-China summit is planned for the second half of July. And even though it's hard to predict what transatlantic relations might look like at the time, it's safe to say Trump's presidency will shake up the global order, and the EU's job is not to fall behind. For TVP World, Natalia Komarov.
And with that, it's a wrap for this edition of the World News. But as always, do stay tuned to TVP World for more breaking news, updates, and features.